Many of speedrunning's milestones tend to be entirely arbitrary, like the world's first 85-minute run, the world's first 85-minute run but with no glitches, or the world's first 85-minute run with no bonfires, weapons, upgrades, levels, playing as a female character with a ponytail. B. There's nothing wrong with celebrating such achievements. Still, realistically, most of these accomplishments are best at sooner rather than later. However, in September 2022, a historic Dark Souls All Bosses run was completed. A run that reached a milestone which can never be broken. The last time an hour barrier fell in Dark Souls was over 9 years ago. In fact, it was so long ago that we do not even have the run or runner who accomplished the feat or record. Prepare to Die was in its infancy, not just as a speedrun, when the world record got pushed under 2 hours for the first time. Yet, something long inconceivable and much later highly anticipated finally happened. The traditionally most prestigious All Bosses speedrun category was beaten in under 1 hour for the first time. To celebrate this significant occasion, I will go over which new major strategies allowed the time to be pushed by over 3 minutes in the past year, and how an unlikely candidate would become the player most determined to do it. Ladies and gents, this is Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition All Bosses in under 60 minutes. The last time you could have seen the All Bosses speedrun on my channel was a world record of 1 hour, 3 minutes and 35 seconds from all the way back in October 2020. It was the culmination of a long effort to reach my own arbitrary achievement and finish a run in under 1 hour and 4 minutes. The strategies utilized in the run were what you may come to expect from a Prepare to Die Edition speedrun. An early visit to the Undead Merchant in the Undead Burg, then a notoriously annoying box skip to reach the lower part of Undead Burg as fast as possible and free Sorcerer Griggs for his spells and items. Then the Gold Pine Resin was picked up, Drake Sword was obtained after Taurus Demon, and I also attempted to acquire the Black Knight Greatsword from the Parish Tower Black Knight. In 3 out of the 4 attempts that wouldn't happen and I would reset, but such was the fastest route at the time. To make the sword's moveset much better, I used the bread and butter move swap glitch. Skipping through Anor Londo directly to the giant blacksmith was possible by utilizing the fall control spell from Griggs. I used quantity storage to purchase all the upgrade materials needed for my sword before fighting Ornstein and Smo. I was also looking to obtain the red tearstone ring, but instead of physically running to the garden, I used a glitch called Equip Slot Manipulation to effectively transform an item from the painted world into the ring. Another skip using the fall control in combination with air rolls this time was performed to enter the Duke's archives, which were locked behind the golden fog wall at the time. In the DLC, I had to complete an entire side quest within Ulasil Township to pursue Goff to shoot down Calamite so I could fight him regularly. In the post-DLC late game parts, I transitioned my build into sorceries, exploiting the immense power of Darkbeat and cleaned up whatever bosses were left. Finally, I parried Gwyn before showering him with my dark arts and lit the last bonfire. With nearly 4,500 attempts at my side, that was finally it. But while the world record wouldn't be lowered for another year, it didn't mean the speedrun wouldn't see any development. The most groundbreaking strategy implemented during the next year was Goffless Calamite. It is a method of killing Calamite while he's airborne without needing to talk to Goff beforehand. While the fight is slower, it skips having to run around the entire Ulasil Township, allowing for a new skip to be used, which I'll get to in a moment. At the time, I made a video dedicated to Goffless in which I briefly mentioned that a melee variant of the strategy was figured out, because the Dragon's Tail's hitbox extends further down than it seems. Back then, no one could estimate how much time a new route utilizing this strategy could save exactly. Regole was the first player to be curious enough to find out when he slayed the record in 1 hour, 3 minutes and 2 seconds in November 2021.
What's the world record? 103.02. That's what the world record is.
But this would only mark the beginning. Over the next month, he progressively kept improving his best all the way down to a time of 1 hour, 1 minute and 17 seconds. What was interesting about Regole's runs was that he chose to use the Dragon Tooth as the primary weapon instead of the Black Knight Greatsword. It meant he did not have to rely on a random weapon drop from the Black Knight, since the Dragon Tooth is picked up from a chest in Anor Londo. Not needing magic to kill Calamite Goffless allowed Regole to perform the massive Township skip. This skip utilizes a technique called delayed air rolls, in which the player first jump attacks the edge of the elevator shortcut leading to Manus, which puts them in a specific animation. At the end of this animation, it is possible to start chaining air rolls and avoid fall damage, as long as the player has the correct equip load. More important than how this works precisely is that the entirety of Ulasil Township is skipped, including the Darkbeat pickup location. This meant the run's post-DLC part needed to be done with a melee weapon rather than sorceries. As such, abandoning all sorceries became an attractive option, which is what Regole did. He thus didn't have to perform the annoying box skip at the start of the run, since freeing Griggs was no longer necessary, but also had to incorporate workaround strategies for where fall control or other spells had previously been used. Fortunately, the game saw enough developments to put these changes within the realms of possibility, such as this fantastic Moonlight Butterfly kill using the Pike Moo swap. Because the Dragon Tooth route and a newly revamped Black Knight Greatsword route had a similar structure, while maintaining plenty of minor differences, it was difficult to tell which one would be faster. To figure this out, I swallowed the hard pill of having to farm a random weapon job, believing the BKGS was the quicker option. After returning from my excursion to, nowhere, I got into grinding attempts at the beginning of 2022. With 700 attempts, it became clear that the route variant I was running could not stack up to the Dragon Tooth version, albeit only by a small margin. Even so, I managed to take back the record by an improvement of 15 seconds. The sum of all my best individual segments was down to 59 minutes flat, meaning a run close to perfect could theoretically achieve sub 1 hour. Still, such a performance would require many more attempts. With Elden Ring having just released, I decided it was time to move on for a bit and leave all bosses in the hands of others. At around the time when Regole and I were trading world records, another runner gradually improved his all bosses personal best and slowly rose up through the leaderboards. This young and soon-to-be professional physicist from Brazil went by the name Maarionete, or Mario for short. Dark Souls was not Mario's first endeavor in speedrunning FromSoft games. He started with Bloodborne in 2016, climbing to 15th place in all bosses and 6th place in current patch any percent. He quickly became known as a Toho enjoyer, with Momiji often being seen somewhere on his screen. The limited options for practice on a console meant he wasn't taking himself too seriously and simply enjoyed the step-by-step improvements. He started dabbling with Dark Souls later in 2017, even before I did, but brought a much more competitive mindset only around 3 years later. In 2020, he managed to sneak his way to the top 4 of the All Bosses leaderboards, but would quickly be pushed out by Regole and Dunflesh. In 2022, just like myself, Mario falsely believed in the BKGS supremacy and dedicated many attempts to run with the weapon. While he wasn't quite eyeing the record just yet, his efforts were rewarded with a 3rd place trophy.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, that was trash.
Then, only about 4 months removed from my low 101, the routes would see another overhaul thanks to a small strategic change. This time, it became clear that the Dragon Tooth was the faster option. Glitch Hunter Androv T figured out ways to kill Taurus and cut Hellkite's tail without the gold pine resin, allowing for a quicker early pathing. It introduced more luck to these tasks, but since it is so early into the run, it became worth going for. And with the resin skipped, killing the Black Knight became considerably slower, meaning the BKGS route was now out of question. Mario did not hesitate and switched to the faster Dragon Tooth as soon as possible. However, the one to take the record away from me would be Regole. After all, he had more practice having run Dragon Tooth all this time, and already having world record experience from several categories. He first brought the record down to 1 hour and 45 seconds, but amidst happiness quickly acknowledged that there was more time to be saved.
This run still isn't even that good, so don't go too crazy, but...
And he was right, as proven by further improvement of the record down to 1 hour and just 8 seconds.
Nice, dude. Nice. Yeah.
He was so close. Mere 9 extra seconds separated Regole from making history. But perhaps due to a fear of success, perhaps due to bad luck, hundreds of attempts passed by and sub 1 hour was still out of sight. Meanwhile, In the southern part of the Americas, Mario set his first personal best with the Dragon Tooth at low 61 minutes. Then, as his skill with the route improved, he lowered it to just 17 seconds behind the world record. The showdown of who would be the first runner to break the 1 hour barrier was on. The Brazilian showed incredible form and consistency when he set not 1, not 2, but 3 separate personal bests within a week, trailing Regole by a mere 2 seconds. It was so ridiculous that after verifying the first 2 runs, I jokingly told him to cut it out and simply get it over with already. He then responded that these small PBs were not on purpose, under the next submission only days later. At this point, 1 attempt out of the 10s being performed daily was all it could take to etch one's name into the history books. And on Thursday, September 8th, Mario got on this attempt 2 hours into his stream, while arguably still being a bit sleepy. It started like any other run. Decent Taurus, although not the fastest possible RNG, and a good Hellkite Drake. When approaching the rafters in Analondo, Mario skipped healing, saving him around 3 seconds over playing it safe. Such an approach signaled developed confidence in his ability to get runs started. However, when passing the Silver Knight guard in Havel's stash, the attempt nearly came to an end.
Hey, what's up, Osage? Okay.
Knowing his early game was good enough, Mario decided to heal up before Ornstein and Smo to maximize his chances of success. Adapting on the fly according to how well or poorly the run is going is a crucial skill top speedrunners need to possess. The ONS fight was excellent and resulted in a pace already aiming for under an hour.
That's still pretty far ahead.
The margin grew even more significant with a fantastic straight demon boss fight. If from here on out Mario managed to simply repeat what he had already done in his personal best, sub 60 would be in the bag. But of course, speedrunning is never that simple, and that's part of its charm. Priscilla was another place where Mario's chosen undead almost lost his life.
What the fuck was that? Bro, that's so fucked. I don't know what happened there.
After nailing one of the hardest skips of the run at the Duke's Archives Golden Fog Wall, the run was still far ahead after Artorias. Maybe due to the recent streak of successful attempts, however, Mario was unfazed.
It's good that I don't feel... I feel nothing about this run right now. Like, I'm not shaking whatsoever.
Yet, the upcoming Calamite is one of the run's most random and skill-demanding parts.
Oh, you fucking asshole.
Calamite was not kind, and one of his cycles was extremely slow, resulting in an 11-second time loss. At this point, the run was 20 seconds behind Regole's record, but there was still time to be gained in the late game. The comeback started with the Quelaag segment. Mario first perfectly navigated along the pixel white seam in New Londo ruins,
Bench.
and then got a great Quelaag boss fight.
Know what I mean? Thank you.
Nonetheless, Mario's Kryptonite, the Depths, was still coming up.
And it started. The cringe has commenced. Oh, and more. God, dude, this segment is so infuriating.
After losing nearly 10 seconds, the pace was getting tight. With roughly 14 minutes left in the run, only 14 more seconds could be wasted before the sub-hour faded away. And these 14 minutes still had 3 frame-perfect wrong warps needing to be performed. The first, after Bed of Chaos, was first try. After 4 Kings, another first try. And what is more, Mario even completed the segment faster than he had ever done before. With the nerves racking up, performing under pressure is what separates the good from the best. And on this day, on this run, an aspiring physicist was poised to prove his worth. At Nito, 2 more bosses and 1 more wrong warp presented the final challenge. There was no margin for error anymore, and the fights needed to be perfect. That was a fantastic Nito. Now, 1 more wrong warp. And another first try. Entering the kiln of the first flame over 17 seconds ahead, 2 parries stood between this attempt and history. And on September 8th, 2022, the speedrunner Maarionete approached Gwyn's arena.
Fucking go, dude! First sub hour! Let's go! Woo! Nice! 59-51. It fucking happened. So fucking sick, dude. Haha. Nice! I told you it was coming! Thanks everybody, thank you so much! Exa porra! Thank you! Time to screenshot this baby.
Saying that this is an extraordinary moment in the history of Dark Souls speedrunning would be an understatement. It took 10 years, 10 different world record holders, and countless community members working together for this memorable achievement. But in the end, only 1 player could claim the title of the first sub 1 hour run. And with Mario's grind, patience, and skill, I believe this trophy is in deserving hands. Just imagine how happy he must have been. Not only did he achieve the sub 60, but he also claimed his first ever world record in over 5 years of speedrunning. So happy that a minute later...
And this run kinda sucked, but don't tell anyone.
Oh, of course, the typical speedrunner's reaction. But he clearly knew what he was talking about, as since this 59-51, he further improved his best by 4 more seconds to 59-47, where the world record stands today.
Yeah! Nice!
Huge congratulations to Mario for being the one to break the 1 hour barrier and claiming his first world record. Links to his Twitch and YouTube are in the description, so make sure to give him a follow. I can't wait to see where the category goes next, as with a highly optimized run, even a time in the 58-minute range is now plausible. Will it be Mario who pushes it down there? Or will Regole come back and reclaim his world record? Or will it perhaps be another unlikely candidate? Only time will tell. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.